Hey y'all, and welcome back to The Wannabe Author, the podcast that pulls back the curtain on the publishing world, traditional, self-publishing, and more. I'm your host, Taryn Christine, an author navigating the turns and plot twists of getting books into readers' hands. Here we get real about the wins, the rejections, and the lessons learned along the way. Whether you're chasing an agent, going self-published, or just curious how it all works, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Hey y'all, and welcome back to The Wannabe Author. I'm your host, Taryn Christine, and today's episode is one I've been really looking forward to sharing with y'all, not just because it is an episode full of insight and with an author I very much look up to, but we've also had this author on the podcast before. In season 1, when I originally got to interview her, we talked about her debut novel, Call It What You Want. In that first episode, we spoke a lot about how the journey of going from an indie published author to traditionally published. And so in this episode, we then get to talk about her sophomore novel, which comes out August 4th, How to Find Love in the Cereal Aisle, and how the experiences have been so different from how she started out originally indie published to now starting and ending this book in the traditional path. We also get to talk about her wonderful writing group, which I am lucky to be a part of, called Hot Girls Who Write, how she is able to provide many resources for writers and authors alike. Overall, this was a fantastic episode to record. This author offers a lot of insight and example for love and determination for her craft. It is my honor and privilege to introduce you all to today's guest, Alissa DeRogatis.
You're good. Hi, Alissa. Welcome to The Wannabe Author.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh. Of course. Welcome back, actually, is what I should be saying. Alissa, for those of you who don't know, was actually my very first guest episode, and I failed brutally, lost the video. Thankfully I had like a second recording going on, like voice recording, but so I'm just feeling very lucky that Alissa has decided to come back and celebrate the release of her second novel with us. But you're amazing. I'm so excited to dive into this. Everything regarding you, your books, but before I get ahead of myself, I always like to start out by asking, what are you currently reading?
I'm currently reading Too Blessed to Stress by Ali Hoff Kosik. It's her debut, and I'm doing an interview with her for Hot Girls Who Write, my writing community, this week. So I like to read things closer to the time that I have events because it feels fresh and top of mind, even though sometimes I'm like, oh, am I procrastinating? Like, I don't view it like that. So that's my current read. I actually haven't even started it, so I really got to get going.
Well, it sounds so good. I mean, for everyone listening, I'm a part of the Hot Girls Who Write platform, and it is so much fun. You put so much work into that. Like, I've learned so much so far, so I'm really excited for this interview and being able to hear a lot about this book. I think it'll be so fun. Like, I'm excited to hear from the author.
Yeah, me too. I was skimming through the book. I like a physical book when I'm interviewing people, like to take notes and stuff, because Kindle, it's hard to go back and forth, but I prefer to read on Kindle. And she has a lot of fun, like Reddit snark pages and like next door. So I love a book that involves social media. I'm sure we'll get into How to Find Love in the Cereal Aisle, but I'm really excited for this one. So
I'm excited too.
Yeah.
Interested to hear all your thoughts on it, and I need to grab it because it sounds so fun. Okay. We're gonna get into your books. I always like to start out with kind of going over writing. So take us back, because this is super fun. I'm excited to hear a bit about How to Find Love in the Cereal Aisle, because this is your first book in trad, correct?
Yes.
And so, I'd love for you to kind of take us back, like the origin story of How to Find Love in the Cereal Aisle, how it came to be, and when you sat down to write it and you're like, yep, I'm going to make this one happen.
I don't even know. Like that's the craziest part. So I self-published Call It What You Want June of 2023 and had been writing that for like 9 months or so, like at writing, editing, promoting that. And then it re-released June of 2024, and I started my second book, which is now called How to Find Love in the Cereal Aisle, but I had no title. I had no idea where that book was going to go. And I started that in like February of 2024. Like it was actually pretty late. Like I think a lot of people, if they sign, especially debut authors, romance specifically, they'll sign 2 book deals and they want them back to back. So like, yeah, sure, you just turned in your copy edits for your second book, but you should start drafting your next or whatever, your current book, and then you should start drafting your next book. So I just remember I love a breakup book, and people will say that maybe the synopsis for Serial Isle doesn't like fit what the book is actually about. I've seen that in some reviews. And that it leans more women's fiction than romance, but that's the kind of book that sticks with me, is something that like I just feel like I pick up a book when I want to get lost in something or relate to something on a deeper level than sometimes like just a, I hate to say fluffy romance, but like the happily ever after Prince Charming. Um so yeah, I don't know. I just sat down and was like, okay, I'm gonna try to write another book about a breakup, and then it became something so different. Like my editor, when she read the first draft, she was like, "This, there's no plot here." Like I was like, "Okay, I don't know what you mean by that," and she was like, "We need a commercial hook." Like, and then she came up with the idea of the meet cutes.
Love. Well, and kind of going back on what you said of like if it leans more women's fiction. I feel like most romances have been like Emily Henry. I feel like I mean, I know I've heard it said a couple of times. I feel like she's leaning more that. But I think that's what people are wanting right now is like, well, obviously we love our like romances, but I think we all are really craving that super relatable and like emotionally filled romance. And I feel like you really get that in How to Find Love in the Serial Isle. I've gotten to read it and it's beautiful. I love everything about it. But I think that's so fun that you mentioned that your agent kind of helped come up with those ideas. With writing a book now in trad, has it been like really nice having kind of like a team around you instead of like being on your own doing indie?
Yeah. So I liked indie because I was like in full control, but like I didn't have that like the assets that I do now. Like having a team is just the story so much better. They give me ideas. Like I would have never known. Like I'm definitely more of a vibes writer than a plot writer, but like our friend Meg Rosenthal with the Architecture of Story podcast and the workshops we've done with Hot Girls Who Write, I've realized that most books do follow a formula, and you can stray from it for sure, but I think that, you plot drives the the book, like it has to. So you have to make sure that are I was going to say climaxing, and that just feels really sick. You know what I mean? Like we're like leading up to the climax, and then there's like this big thing, and then so, and again, like every plot looks different, but it's been really fun to be able to have someone be like, yeah, this needs work, or like, because you know this with beta readers and having editors, whether it's developmental or like line edits, it's just you can't see everything with your own 2 eyes. So having other eyes and fresh sets, and even with like cover design and having other people lean in that really get me and my books and my brand and like what I want to do has been helpful. And I don't think I would have been able to create this book and make it the way that it is on my own.
Absolutely. I love it. Okay. I got a little ahead of myself going into publishing questions, but I'd love for you to kind of talk about, I mean, I guess this kind of correlates, but is there a big difference like between the earliest version of your book versus the book that's now currently in readers' hands?
Yes. Oh, for Serial Isle?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes, I mean, I have like my first drafts. I print them and bind them like right here. And
Cute.
I have not touched it. I'm really like, that would be actually, I might do that after this, like just to flip through, because I also have my first physical copies. And so it's been fun to just like flip through them. But yeah, it was so different. So I probably should have given a little bit of a synopsis, but How to Find Love in the Serial Isle follows romance author Ainsley Green, who is just got broken up with, is on her first book tour, and has a new book to write. And she's like, how am I going to write a new book if I'm heartbroken and feel like I don't believe in love right now? And so she drunkenly comes up with this idea to like fake these meet cutes to try to like inspire her to write a romance novel. And it's not about finding love, it's more about finding inspiration. And then along the way, she also finds love. And so like that whole thing did not exist. Like the book was mostly, and it's told in dual point of view. So you see her, like the main plot is what I just explained, but the dual, wait, it's not dual point of view, it's dual timeline.
No, you're good.
The past chapters, it starts off when she meets her ex-boyfriend, and then you see that relationship like fizzle it, and like but you see her realize like, oh, this guy that I've been heartbroken over, like it wasn't all it was cracked up to be. So you go through that growth with her, which is always going to be something that I want to include in my novels. But that, like the early version was mostly this breakup book, and like the current plot was not even like existent really. So it's just really funny to see the difference. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. Now I've become more of a plotter, and I try not to veer because I think it helps. I had so many rounds of revisions on this one, and it just delays the process a lot. So having a clear vision of what I want and being aligned with my agent and my editor on it has been a lot easier with book 3.
No, I bet. I have tried becoming a plotter. It's not working for me, so you'll have to let me know. Well, you said you're doing that with book 3, so okay. Love. I need to get
I
better.
fully outlined, but I had 2 chapters and I wound up breaking them up into like 4 or 5 because it was, as I was writing, I was like, wait, this is like a big moment. Like I want to like stretch this out. So I have like a roadmap, but it doesn't mean I don't veer from it.
Yeah. And I think that's the best way to go about it.
Agreed.
Okay, well, so you kind of dove into this, but I'd love for you to paint a picture for the listeners of what a writing day looks like for you. Like you were saying, pantsing, plotting, where do you have to do it, and is there any content you have to ingest while you're writing?
I used to be like a strictly like a nighttime writer with like a glass of wine, and like I needed like the vibes. And I think it was, especially with Call It What You Want, it was such an emotional story that was kind of related to something that I had been through. And so that, and I was working full time in an office, by the way, 5 days a week. So that was like my escape, was like, okay, I'm going to, make dinner, get a glass of wine and write. Now that I mostly write full time, and I have a nice office, like I feel less confined, I guess. And I like being up here during the day. Like at night, it feels creepy because the window's right there. And I'm like, I don't want people to see me. Well, I have blinds, but like, I don't know.
I
I
get what
just
you're saying.
like being here during the day. And so I try to like treat it like a job. Like I'll sit down and I will look at my outline, see where I am, like in the story. And I try to write linearly because when I've gone back and forth to different parts of the story, it's really hard for me. I don't listen to anything because it distracts me. Sometimes, like with Call It What You Want, I was able to listen to things and I was able to have like normal people on in the background. It's like that show I've seen like dozens of times, but like now I can't do that. I'm like a one track kind of person. So it's pretty much silent over here. Maybe some low music, it depends, but for the most part, I have to really be locked in. Yeah, and I don't put a word limit, like a word count. Don't try to hit those goals. I just kind of write when it feels like I want to write.
Love.
Sometimes it's 4 days that week, and sometimes it's none.
I feel that actually.
Yeah.
Okay. What part of the writing process feels the most natural to you, and what part almost breaks you every time?
That's a good question. Outlining, I feel like kind of breaks me. Like I don't feel like that feels natural to me. I have like, but it has really helped me, like to be able to, my best friend Michaela, I tell her like everything with my books, and I'm like, this is my idea, like part 1, part 2, like I walk her through it. And so it's fun to like have that and be like, I know where the story's heading, but it's really hard for me. And I feel like the part that feels the most natural are those really sad like breakup scenes. Like I love writing sad things. And I think you can tell that in my writing sometimes. Like there's definitely like parts of Serial Isle where I'll go on this long tangent and like, they're big paragraphs, and like that's when I feel like I'm emotionally invested. Whereas in dialogue, which I love dialogue, but the movements or like describing like the dresser in the corner, like I don't want to do that. Like that also feels like forced to me, but I get that that's part of, being like a novelist. Like you have to paint the whole picture.
Yeah. Well, and I can vouch for you definitely have such a gift when it comes to what like the internal thinking of your woman characters. Like when I those are the parts where I do feel like I lock in, and then there's always this like punchline where I'm just like, like yeah. So yes, I definitely can see that, like where you definitely lock into those specific parts.
Mhm.
Okay, I'd love to get into kind of the publishing road for this book. I know most listeners and readers will know about Call It What You Want. Started out as an indie published book. I'd love for you to whoops walk us through the road to publication with Serial Isle, like kind of when it was brought up and moving forward from there and how we've gotten to today.
Yeah, so my agents found me from Call It What You Want going viral on TikTok. And I've said this before, but I know you have a lot of authors and writers listening to your podcast. So I feel like this is important. And I don't know that a lot of people know this. When you hit the top 100 overall books on Amazon, it gets, even if you're indie, like it gets pinged to Publishers Marketplace. So before, if you don't know what Publishers Marketplace is, to those listening, that's where all the deals are. So if you see that little screenshot, like of Publishers Marketplace deal report that traditionally published authors will post, it's a platform. You can pay for it. It's like $25 a month. And I do suggest, if you're trying to query, like I do think that's a helpful tool and it's worth the money. Even if you just do it for 1 month and just source like a bunch of agents that authors or books that you're interested in are buying. But there's like a there's like a list, so they get notified or something on there. I don't exactly know how it works, but I looked up Call It What You Want before it was traditionally published on Publishers Marketplace, and it'll tell you what number it is out of 100 on Amazon, because everyone these days is like an Amazon bestseller in a category, right? Look, our friend Alyssa Burns, like her book isn't out yet, and the last special thing, shout out, she was number one in the drugs and alcohol category. Like I don't want to say it's easy because it's still such a big feat, but like it's just a little bit more common. So they found me through there, and when we were talking about signing a book, or like they wanted to go on submission and all this stuff, they were like, write up a synopsis for another book idea. And I was like, I don't know if I have another book idea. Like, and at the time it was going to be kind of like Sex and the City-esque. Like I wanted to talk about like girls in their 20s being single, and like Call It What You Want has such a theme of friendship, which I think in How to Find Love in the Serial Isle does not really. Like there is, but it's a different kind of, it's not female friendship. And so that felt way too similar. But I remember being like, okay, I guess I'll just write something. And then I signed a 2-book deal. So I always knew there was another book coming after Call It What You Want, but I never knew what it was going to be about, like I said earlier. And then I just had a meeting with my editor like in February of 2024. Call It What You Want was re-releasing in June. And I felt like I was like, why is this happening so quick? I'm already talking about book 2. The new book's not even out, but that's how it goes. And then look, we're 2 years past February 2024 and it's not even out yet. But yeah, that I feel like I always knew I was going to write another book, but I didn't know what it was going to be about. And then the path to publishing has been different, but the same sort of, because like this is my first like real traditionally published book, but it's just a lot of back and forth revisions. And then you go into cover conversation and synopsis. And like, I knew all of that with Call It What You Want, but they've looked pretty similar.
Yeah. Very interesting. It's very I think what's been fun about hearing everybody's road to publication, like that we've had on the podcast, is how different it can be every single time. Like it's that similar like stepping stones, but there's always like it's very fun to hear like all the ins and outs. And I didn't even know actually that it pinged on Publishers Marketplace once you hit Amazon 100. Like that's
And I don't know if it's like something they get notified to their email, or if it's like a back. I don't have Publishers Marketplace anymore,
Yeah.
but I think it might be like a thing that they'll check and be like, oh, what books are trending on Amazon right now? And like, same with like the USA Today bestsellers list. Like those are just things that they keep up with. So when they see an indie book trending in the top 100, they're going to be like, okay, what is the deal here? Is this worth like investing in and trying to take a trad? Do they even want to go trad? Things like that. I don't know if you want to talk about the Cosmo Reads piece, because that path to publication is like different / interesting. So I don't know if that's worth bringing up.
No, yeah, talk about whatever. I would love to hear about that.
So when I signed the 2-book deal for Call It What You Want, it was 2 source books, and my editor at Source Books left and started a new imprint at a new publishing house. So then I got moved to my current editor, who I actually love. I love both of them, but I think we vibe like a little bit differently, like better probably. And there was talks of this imprint happening between Source Books and Cosmopolitan magazine, Hearst Books, called Cosmo Reads. And I had heard about it from my old editor. She was like the director of it. And I love Cosmo. I think it fits my demographic really well, and was so excited. And then I had never heard anything again about it. They were like, yeah, we're going to pitch your book, but we'll see. They're like trying to make things very different. And we already have one book about a vlogger, and they think a vlogger and a writer is too similar. So I just kind of let that dream die. And then one day it hit my inbox that Cosmo wanted the book. So essentially it's just an imprint of Source Books. It doesn't make any difference. Like, I still have the same editor. There's different like marketing. Well, I still have my same publicist because she works under Cosmo Reads, but there's more marketing behind it. So really the benefit there is the logo, notability. And then really just the marketing. Like, it's in the most recent or current issue of Cosmo. They have their Instagram, they'll share things. They did the cover reveal. So it's been really fun to have that extra oomph, I guess. But yeah, that's really all I felt like that was kind of important to share.
No, absolutely. Well, and I didn't even realize it had been like a separate kind of thing, like your editor leaving and stuff. Like, that's so interesting. And I do feel like it has been such a fun, I've gotten to talk to you a lot about it, about Cosmo and stuff, and it's been super fun, like watching everything that they've come out with. They have done so well with like promoting and, just the whole aesthetic of it all. It really does fit with your vibe and the book. I've loved it. It's been super fun to see all of that.
Yeah, it has been really fun. So I'm excited to see what else happens.
No, yeah, I'm excited to see what else they do with that. Do you know? I'm curious. Is your book is one of the first released with Cosmo Reads, correct?
It'll be a year. I think in September. The first book to come under Cosmo Reads was Female Fantasy. I'm like on the later half though, because there's Female Fantasy. 1 week later, it seems like a good idea. It seems like a bad idea. Lauren Blakely.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. It's about a bodyguard. And then there's The Last Time We Drowned, Rich Girl Summer. There's some other ones that haven't been announced yet. So I'm in there, but I'm like on the later half. There's like a few more releases even before mine.
That's what I thought. I was like, I knew it was like newer, but I couldn't remember all the books that had come out with it or how long it had been out. But I forgot. Yeah, Female Fantasy came out with.
That was their first. Yeah, it was like their inaugural read. I think they
Oh, how cool. Okay, cool. Okay, now, with this whole like journey, was there any part that was like, okay, nobody told me about this, or were you really caught off guard by anything that happened? Like, I don't know, maybe your editor leaving or anything, any moments?
Okay, the editor leaving was, I've never talked about this. There's no bad blood or anything, but
yeah,
it hasn't ever come up in conversation really. But yeah, that was weird to me. Like, it wasn't weird. Like, I'm so happy for her. She definitely is more general fiction, like less romance. And so she's starting, I think, a contemporary fiction, commercial fiction imprint at Abrams Publishing. And they've done like books and coffee table books and stuff like that. So I'm really happy for her. But it was really weird. And I was like, what does this mean for me? And she was like, I feel good about publishing, call it what you want. Like, we can move into copy edits or send it over to, I think you send it over to someone. I'm forgetting who it is, like to the team. And I was like, wait, I don't feel like we're ready. And then when I got my new editor, we like really went in and kind of started from the ground up. And so I'm glad we didn't go forth with publishing it at that state, because I don't think it would have been embarrassing. So yeah, that was hard and weird, and I didn't know how to feel. But it kind of opened doors for me, because if I didn't really like my current publisher or editor, then I could have went on submission or optioned my new book, which I haven't sold yet, by the way. We haven't even gone on whatever. Um, I could have gone somewhere else, right? Like it opened it to not burn bridges, because typically in traditional publishing, you do kind of stay with the same publisher unless they don't want to re-sign you or like whatever. But you should, I think, stay is kind of the so
Yeah.
it opened that up. But I really love my editor. She's amazing. We get each other. She's very into like pop culture and like so yeah, we vibe really well. And I'm hoping to sell my next book to her at Source Books.
Yeah. No, and that's I'm glad you guys vibe well. I think it is so important for authors to be aware. Like I've heard so many stories of, I mean, it is real world business. Like you sign with someone, they could totally leave and go somewhere else, and it kind of throws off like your trajectory sometimes. And so I think it's important to hear these stories and kind of be aware, like, hey, you have to be prepared. Like things happen, like shit hits the fan. So I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad you and your new editor vibe well, and like it's all been smooth sailing for the most part. I'm guessing.
Yeah, it has been great. One other thing I wanted to mention too is cover process. So
Yeah.
like call it what you want. We kept the original cover because it tested well. So my publisher at Source Books, they're really data driven. So they'll test titles and covers in like focus groups and stuff. I don't know how. But they'll give like if we come up with a list of like 3 or 5 book titles, they'll go test them and be like these two perform like the best. And so with covers, call it what you want, tested well, so we kept it. And then I was really, really worried because I'm like, I love marketing. I love visual. Like for me, a book cover is really important. Everyone says don't judge a book by its cover. I judge a book by its cover. I'm not going to pick it up, even flip it over in a bookstore if I think it's weird. If I see a TikTok about a book and I don't like the cover, but I'm sold from that, then I'm going to buy it. So the cover process for Serial Isle was bad. Like but my agent was also on my side. Like we were a team. We like came back, but the first version of it to now, like they're so different. And I'm like, I'm so glad I just didn't say yes to the first thing. But it was like a lot of back and forth, a lot of notes. I think we kind of felt bad making them go back to the drawing board, but like that it was very important to me. So it's yeah, and I know everyone has different like clauses in their contracts and everything. And I think it also depends on how much your agent is willing to like go to bat for you, and mine always is. And I think people loved Call It What You Want also because of the cover, and I knew that there wasn't an option to have a worse cover. Like I couldn't go back. Like I was like, I mean, can it live up to it? But it did. I love it so much.
No, it's perfect. I love the cover so, so much. And I think that is like, I'm glad you touched on that, because I think that's such an important thing to keep in mind. What you're going to have, like, if you have a specific look, if you have, like, we hear a lot in trad publishing, like, oh, you don't get a choice, or you, like, it's not up to you all the time. Like you're saying, you can fight for things, and and I think it's important to find a team, like an agent, who would go to bat for you, who will vouch for you and what you're wanting to see with the book you created. So I'm
Yeah.
glad you touched on that.
Well, that's never been my experience. And I don't know if it's just because my publisher is more collaborative or what, but uh, I've never been told no, like, or anything. Like, even if there's a change in copy edits that I don't want to make, I'm like, we're not making this. Like, to me, it's not important. Or what, like, you like surpass it, I guess. But, yeah, it is important. And I remember too, like, I even sent a mood board like of covers I liked and colors. Like, I was very specific. And then to not get that the first time, I was like, what is going on here? But it's really important. If that's something that's important to you, I do suggest collecting your thoughts, make a Pinterest board, whatever, put it on a Google Doc and send those through, because you can at least give some direction. Since you're
No,
so like some people don't care though.
yeah. No, I love that. I'm so glad you touched on that. Okay, Now, when you were still a wannabe author, what did you think the journey would look like, and how wrong were you?
I don't even know. I like for anyone that doesn't know, I wrote Call It What You Want, and this might sound delusional. Like everyone's always like, "Did you always want to be an author?" And I'm always like, "No." And like, yeah, I didn't always want to be an author, but looking back, like I was in third grade and like won the Young Authors Award and went to this like writing camp like one weekend. And so I think I've always had that, like I love feelings and I love talking about them or writing about them. That's how I process things. So to write Call It What You Want, it was more about like a therapeutic, like I wanted a book that I couldn't find on the shelf, so I wrote it, which sounds so crazy and delusional. Like, so I was just like, I'm writing it. If one person buys it, great. If 100 people buy it, great. I'm writing it for me to get this story out and for anyone that's been in a situationship that wants a similar story. Little did I know where that was going to go. So like, I don't know. Like I thought I remember Colleen Hoover's literary agent saw my first viral TikTok, DM'd me. I looked her up on LinkedIn and I was like, hello? Like, who is this? Or she worked for the agency because I think Colleen Hoover's literary agent is the owner of the agency, but it was like someone on that team. And I remember I sent her when I had like, a few drafts, I sent it to her and she like never got back to me. And I remember thinking it was going to be so easy to be like, okay, here's this book and she's going to want it. So that would probably be one thing. But then I just went ahead and self-published it and it all worked out anyway. Like, so I think, yeah, I also, if you would have asked me that when I was writing that book, I would have said, no, I'm only writing one book. And now it's like, I can't imagine doing anything else. Like, I love it so much.
No, I love that. I love that so, so much. And I'm glad you're doing it because I love your books.
Thank you.
Okay. Was there ever a moment you considered quitting? And if so, what kept you from quitting?
A lot of the times. I mean, I'm not a quitter. Like, one thing about me is I will put if I have an idea, I'm going to see it through. I know a lot of people who do not have the follow through, and I'm so glad that I do. Like, I just don't quit. And I also feel like I have this blind confidence, this delusion sometimes to just be like, I'm going to do this and it's going to work out. I never know how big or successful something's going to be, but I know I'm doing it for me. And so that's like the most important piece. I remember the week that it was releasing when Call It What You Want like first came out and I self-published and I started getting like some pretty bad Goodreads reviews. I was like, did I make a terrible mistake? So that would have been like, I was like really questioning things. And there were times where I was like, am I doing the right thing publishing this book? Is this like a bad idea? Is this, my ex and I that I loosely inspired, Call It What You Want, run in the same friend groups. We live in the same city. And I was just like, am I going to look dumb if I do this? And it turned out to be the best, like, thing to ever happen to me. Even last night, I was with the mutual friends and someone was like, do you own your townhome? And I was like, no, I rent it. And they asked me like, how much, do you mind asking, like letting me know how much you pay? And I told him and he was like, oh, and I was like, yeah, thanks blank. Like, let's say his name was Dave. Like, thanks, Dave. Like, yeah, you can say thanks to Dave. Like, Dave's my dad's name. So, but like thanks to my ex, like, thank you. Like, I got that story and now I have this life. So yeah, there's been times even writing Serial Isle, I was like, I don't know if I'm capable of writing another book, or it's so hard to follow. People have that sophomore slump, especially if you have that's what they call it, but a successful debut. And I was like, am I going to live up to this? But I never really considered actually throwing in the towel. Like, it would be embarrassing, I think, to me to be like, no, I'm going to go back to I can't go back to a 9 to 5. Like, I'm just not, like, I am spoiled now. I'm like, I can't do that. So no, yes and no.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of my favorite questions to ask on the podcast because it's different every time, but it also is the same with everyone who talks. Like, it's like, yes, every day I think about quitting, but would I? No. Or would I ever stop writing? No.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, I always love hearing like, this is why I would never walk away.
Yeah, that's a good question. I like that one.
Thank you. Okay. Now this is a question that I kind of cooked up back in my second season. I focused a lot on conversation and connecting, and I really liked the responses we were getting. So we've kept it going, kind of altered it a little, but is there a conversation, comment, or piece of feedback, good or brutal, that has changed the way you see yourself as a writer or just has stuck with you in everyday life?
Yeah, people say I'm a juvenile writer, or like I have a juvenile writing style. That sticks with me. I think about that all the time. Like when I'm writing and I'm like, I walked next to him, I'm like, should I say something else? Like, I don't know, like little, but I don't write books like trying to be really deep and profound in those small moments. It's in the moments that matter. And so I think, again, like, yeah, there's definitely been comments or pieces of feedback. Even like sometimes the notes my editor will leave on like sex scenes that I write, I'm like, I'm internally cringing. Like, I don't even want to write these, let alone read them back. But like, I do feel like it fits in the story. I'm not like writing them just to write 2 pages of smut or something. But I'm really good with feedback. Like, I always take it and I'm like, I don't internalize it too much. Like, it's always up here, but I let it guide me when I think it's helpful. And like, if someone thinks I'm a juvenile writer, that's okay. That's not, they're entitled to their own opinion, but I don't need to sit there and overthink it with every sentence that I'm writing, you know?
I just laughed because you were so quick with that one.
Yeah, because I saw like a Goodreads review the other day, and I know people say don't look at your reviews and whatever. I think there is I just feel like I've matured so much since Call It What You Want first came out. And that was really hard because that book was like Sloan and I, we were one and the same kind of like, so to see people comment on like how they didn't have chemistry or their personalities were like croutons, another comment that sticks with me. Like I'm like, okay, like that's fine. It maybe hurt my feelings, but then like when you zoom out and you're like, they're entitled to their own opinion. Like I think that's the thing. Like I think if you can have a healthy relationship with reading your reviews and you know whatever someone says isn't gonna change how you feel about your work, then it's fine.
You know my stance on reading Goodreads reviews. I'm right there with you. I'm like, you gotta be able to, especially, I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong in saying this, but I feel like it comes a lot from the indie publishing route is like you are your own team and you have to know if things are landing with people and stuff.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to handle like, hey, am I seeing a pattern in this? Am I seeing like you got to be able to take that feedback so you can apply it to future.
Exactly, especially with ARC readers, because right now I'm experiencing ARC readers. My
Yeah.
serial isle doesn't come out until um August. So people are reading it early on NetGalley, and those are the reviews I'm getting. And we've talked about this offline, but there was like one page where I think I said hydrangeas 3 different times. And in my most recent read, I was like, oh my God, like that, what am I doing? Like, so I'm like switching it up. And then my copy editor actually was like, well, in March in Nantucket or Martha's Vineyard, there's not going to be hydrangeas blooming. That happens like late May. And again, this is just where, like, to me, that detail is so minuscule. Like I wouldn't pick up on that if when I'm reading. Like I don't read word by word. I'm like reading for the experience, I guess. And then we wound up having to change all of it because it's not blooming. So it's like a gloomy, like, put like you're on the later half of winter about to hit spring. And so someone had made that comment and again, if I hadn't caught up, like if I haven't caught that, I would have been like, oh, let me go to that chapter where I know I'm talking about the scenery in this, and I'm gonna go look, yeah, 3 times on this page. So sometimes it is helpful, like you said, you need to make sure, and other times you just, let the comment go.
Yep. Yeah, you just have to let some of those roll off your shoulder, even like especially the juvenile writing. I can say you're definitely not juvenile writing.
It's fine. I mean, I am the new author, so as I get older, I don't want to be like 50 and someone say I'm a juvenile writer because then I'm have problems.
Unfortunately, I fear there's no pleasing everyone, especially in the book world. But you have very many strengths when it comes to your writing, and I relate a lot with like kind of what you're saying, where I think it is important just for authors like to know their strengths and to be like, yeah, I'm not really focused on like building this intricate picture for you. A lot of authors are very gifted in that. But I think this is coming from also hearing this from another author really big, V. Schwab, I want to say. She's a very poetic writer, but even she was like, I am not going to sit and paint out the picture for people. My skills are in this or in building this. And I think like realizing like, those are my strengths. Those are my skills. I think it shows like then you start attracting the readers that do really feel with your strengths in your writing and stuff. I don't know if that made any sense.
Well, yeah, no, it does. And in contemporary romance or contemporary fiction, I do feel like it that painting that picture sometimes matters a little bit less. Like it's more about those relationships or like what's going on. Like I like the internal dialogue, like you're saying, like
Yep.
that for me is fun to write because I feel like I am my characters. I'm like writing two books in tandem right now, kind of just whatever floats my boat. And my what I am calling book four, but I don't know, could never come out, is more of like a literary fiction type of deal. And it's like part of it set in Barcelona, and I'm getting really picturesque with it, which is not my usual writing style. Like, but it's important for like the what's going on in the book to be very visual. So like that's different. So it's project dependent, I think, too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so glad you touched on that. Okay. Now what part of you, I know you've touched on this a little bit with like Call It What You Want and Serial Isle, but unless you want to expound on it, what part of you lives inside your book?
I don't wait. Why am I not understanding the question? Like I'm like, wait, what?
You're like, excuse me?
What's that mean?
Like, say, is it like, do you feel like you see yourself a lot in your characters, or is it experiences your characters are facing? Like any part of you that you, whether you want to get as personal as you want or not, that lives inside the book that you're like, yeah, this was a big piece of me, or this is a small little tidbit of me.
Yeah. Oh, everywhere. Like again, call it what you want. Like Sloane was definitely me. I was like, if I make her have red hair, no one's gonna think this is me. Like, or just like like funny. And my friends have said that. Like my mom was like, yeah, this was hard to read because it was like I knew these were your feelings. And even with Serial Isle, because she's a romance author, actually, this is kind of full circle. When you asked where the origin of the story for Serial Isle came from, I knew I wanted to write a book about an author because it was like such a unique experience to me, and Call It What You Want was like pretty relatable. The college experience or like the almost relationship or just the friendships where I wanted to write something. I always reference this, but like Daisy Jones and the Six, for me, that was so fun to watch because I'm not a pop star or like I don't know. And it was really cool to see that because I don't know. So I wanted to like mimic that with Serial Isle. So I do feel like with these two main characters, I see a lot of myself in them and a lot of the internal dialogue of having writer's block or having imposter syndrome or like friendship breakups. I've faced those. Like that's a big theme in this novel. Guy best friends. Like, so there are definitely things that I've put of myself in Serial Isle. I feel like I can't not, but moving forward, I don't see myself in like the other two books I'm writing. And to your point too, you said, is it more in the characters or the experiences? There's definitely experiences on my end where like my ex has a girlfriend. How am I feeling? What am I? And I would just write things in my notes app at that time, and I'll go back and pull and be like, oh, I remember what it was like to stalk her Instagram and to see she's however much younger than me. And is she, you know what I mean? Like all those thoughts that go through your head. And that's where I do feel like I go back and forth about writing personal things, especially because I'm dating and not like I'm actively dating.
Yeah.
So I'm like, some guys are just so stupid. I'm just going to say that. And they're like, are you going to write a book about me? I'm like, you don't understand like how hard it is to write a book and like to even come up with like this whole plot. Like, no, unless you do something crazy, I can't ever see a world in which I would use you for inspiration. But I do feel like we write the best with like experiences that we've had, or like, you know, like I just write better when I can base something off of something I've experienced.
No, I completely agree with that. Thank you for sharing that. And outside of writing, what's something about you that would surprise your readers?
I feel like I overshare everything. Like, I feel, okay, this might be just a me thing, but I feel like people probably think that I'm the one that gets broken up with a lot. And like, I actually do, I say broken up with, but like, you know, you go on a few dates like with someone and they're like, oh, I'm not interested, or I'm the one that's doing a lot of the breaking up. So maybe that would surprise. I don't know if that's a reader thing. And I'm not as sad as my books make it seem. So probably another thing.
No, I love it. Well, and I asked this question because I feel like a lot of the times, and I actually just had somebody I interviewed yesterday was saying this too, like, well, this is like being a writer and a reader and stuff. This has been the part of me that I've kind of kept hidden, that would be the thing to surprise people with, like, oh yeah, I am an author, and now we're like living it. So it's so fun to like, okay, well, is there anything else?
I hate not hate is a strong word. I don't really like reading romance. Like
Really?
yeah. So actually that would probably be the most surprising thing. I don't know. I don't like sometimes it's just hard for me to get through, or it just feels like but it makes that's the whole reason I wrote Call It What You Want, was because I was so tired of these 300 pages, girl lost her job, gets broken up with, and then falls in love. By the end of the story, he's married. I'm like, this is unrealistic. Like, I knew when my ex and I broke up, and I was like, I'm gonna be single for a hot minute, and it has been 4 years, and I've been single the entire time. So like, that's just not me. Like, I don't find relatability in romance sometimes. Like, there's very like distinct romance novels that I'll read. I love a second chance romance because I do feel like that feels more relatable to me. Some of the Emily Henry, like I loved Happy Place because it touched on some deeper topics, but like I'm more of a literary fiction reader. Like I really like Heart the Lover was like a great novel. I like something that makes me kind of cry, but I like them to have underlying romance themes. But like I like the will they, won't they, they don't end up together, like a normal people. Like those are the books that I gravitate towards reading. But it's funny because I mean, my current book is the romance, so.
Yeah. I mean, like, as you say it, I'm like, no, that makes sense. I shouldn't be surprised by that. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like I just can't, like, it's just not my vibe. Like I get sick of it. Like I'm bored.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Like, okay. Love it. Okay, what trope do you secretly or loudly love, whether that's in reading or writing, and why that one?
I like second chance romance or friends to lovers. I think again those feel really natural to me. I found it really hard. This is also something I've never talked about. I had a guy best friend that like I kind of had a crush on, and you know this because we've talked about it, but and it has nothing to do with Serial Isle, but like that was my way of like rewriting the script of like, you know, writing a friends to lovers. But I did a lot of research to try to read a lot of friends to lovers. There are not many out there. I'm not going to lie. I read The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. I don't want to say anything, but like facial expression, I don't want to say anything. It wasn't for me. It felt really cheesy. I was like, she has a bedroom at his house. Like, this isn't realistic. Like, my guy best friend didn't sleep over at my house. Like, and you know, like, so that's where, yeah, I like something a little bit more realistic. I'm not a big trope reader. Like I don't really like romance like that. So like that would probably make sense. So yeah, second chance romance or friends to lovers.
No, that makes sense. And I agree. Like with friends to lovers, it's very few and far between. But I think also it's like when it's done right. I feel like it has to be done right, or else it can be very like uncomfortable and unrealistic.
Yeah. Exactly. So. That's exactly how I feel whenever I mean, I love People We Meet on Vacation. I thought that was a really good one. That
was a good one.
And Every Summer After, that's like a friends, lovers, second chance romance kind of mix. So I love both of those books.
Okay. Love. All right. Now we're kind of like closing up, but my last question for you is what's next for you? Can you give us a little teaser, even if it's vague, mysterious, or if you have any events you want to shout out to Hot Girls Who Write, anything like that?
Yeah, well, definitely if you guys are writers, aspiring authors, want to be authors, or you are published, indie, trad, whatever it is, even if you like writing newsletters, poetry, it does not have to be novels or romance or anything. Definitely join Hot Girls Who Write. It's really fun. I do put a lot of time and effort into it, but everyone makes it so easy too. It's just a great community. And we have some fun author interviews coming up in the next few months. We have Ali Hoff Kosik, Chelsea Curto, Saratoga Schaefer, who is a hot girl, not hot girl. She's she's hot.
She's hot girl.
Yeah. She is a Cosmo Reads author. And there's Phoebe Thompson. Her debut is coming out in May, and it's one of my favorite reads. I read it last year, but like really good book. That's literary fiction about female friendship. segueing into my next book that I've been working on is also kind of about female friendship. And yeah, I haven't sold it yet, so hopefully that happens soon. That's kind of my big goal of the year. But I am hoping to sell it and hope that it can come out in 2027. And then I'm writing that other book that, I don't know, that just feels like a passion project to me. So other than that, nothing going on over here.
Well, you have a lot going on. You're doing so much, Alissa. And, you know, it's been so fun to see, especially as a member of like this community you've built with Hot Girls Who Write. I'm going to give it a big shout out because I just love it. I love being a part of it. And it's been a huge help for me. And so I encourage everybody, if you don't have a writing group yet, Hot Girls Who Write is a fantastic community. You learn so much. You've brought on some fantastic like resources regarding authors and, you know, just doing the write-ins even to get people writing has been fantastic. So I highly encourage everyone to go check that out. Alissa, I'm so excited for Serial Isle to hit shelves. It's been so fun to see this project and seeing like from interviewing you with Call It What You Want to now seeing Serial Isle come out. It's been so much fun. I'm so proud of you, and I know you're gonna get this third book sold. So I'm so thankful that you came to join us today, and I'm excited to see what you do next.
Thank you. That was so sweet. I'm so excited that you had me back. I feel honored, and yeah, I'm really excited for everything that's to come. And thank you for the Hot Girls Who Write shout out. Even if you do have a writing group, who says you can't have more than one?
Amen. Amen. Okay, well, I'd love for you to stick around and hang out, but I'm going to go ahead and close out with the listeners. Thanks y'all for listening. If you want to find more of Alissa, Hot Girls Who Write, any of that, I'm going to be tagging everything in the show notes, so pay attention to that. But we will see y'all next Thursday. Bye.